Okay, so we're diving into a pretty disturbing case today. It's out of
Yeah.
Perth, Australia.
Uh-huh.
And, we're calling this a deep dive for a reason.
Yeah.
Because we want to get into like the psychology of this really unsettling case. You've probably seen the headlines about the parents who've been found guilty of child abuse.
Yeah.
And, it's not a simple case. There's a lot of things to unpack here, right?
Absolutely. There are a lot of layers to this one, and it really does raise a lot of questions.
Yeah. And for our listeners, just to set the stage, essentially this case revolves around a couple, in their late 40s
Mm-hmm.
who were found guilty of child abuse. And it
Yeah.
was because they essentially kept their daughter, who is now 20,
Wow.
in a perpetual state of childhood. Now, we're going to get into we're going to unpack exactly what that means. But, they kept her on a restrictive diet, dressed her in clothes for much younger children, and homeschooled her in a way that essentially isolated her
Oh, wow.
from the outside world.
Yeah, it's giving almost like a Rapunzel kind of vibe,
Yeah.
where she's sort of locked away and not allowed to experience the world
Exactly.
as it is, and that's really concerning, especially when you think about the developmental implication
Absolutely.
of something like that.
Yeah. And, on that point, it was actually her ballet teachers
Oh, wow.
who raised the alarm.
Mm-hmm.
They noticed her alarmingly thin frame
Mm-hmm.
and, obviously suspected something was wrong.
Yeah, and that makes sense. I mean, ballet teachers are very attuned to physique
Of course.
and body shape. So they would probably be one of the first
Because
to
they're-
notice something like that. And malnutrition is a really serious issue.
Yes.
It's not just about stunted growth. There are long-term consequences,
Right.
potential organ damage, weakened immune system, even cognitive impairment.
Right. And, as you said, it's not just physical, right? I mean, the social isolation is just as concerning.
Absolutely. I mean, think about it. She was denied the chance to develop those essential social skills,
Yeah.
build friendships, navigate peer relationships, all the things that are crucial for healthy development.
Right.
Yeah.
It's almost like they were trying to create this little bubble for her.
Yeah, it's almost like they were trying to freeze time,
Yes.
keep her in this
Yeah.
perpetual state of innocence.
And it's interesting you say that because to make matters even worse,
Oh, no.
the father actually forged her birth certificate
What?
to make her appear younger.
Okay, that is a whole other level
Yeah.
of disturbing, forging a legal document like that.
Yes.
It suggests something really deep-seated, maybe a delusional belief system at play.
Well, I'm curious, from a psychological perspective, what could drive someone to such lengths? To essentially erase their daughter's true identity.
It's hard to say for sure without a proper evaluation, but, it could be a combination of factors. Maybe a fear of aging, as you mentioned earlier, or a desperate need to control their environment, maybe even a distorted view of childhood as something pure and innocent that needs to be preserved at all costs. It really makes you think about the dark side of nostalgia, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And, we have to talk about the defense's argument
Oh, right, yes.
because they claim that the family suffers from obsessive compulsive disorder
Mm-hmm.
and, that this might have played a role in their controlling behavior.
Yep.
So, is there a connection there? Could OCD lead to such extreme actions?
Well, it's important to understand that OCD is a spectrum, right? It can manifest in many different ways.
Right.
And while I can't diagnose anyone from afar,
Of course.
it's true that in some cases, people with OCD might develop fixations on control and order, that could potentially lead to harmful behaviors. But it's crucial to remember that OCD is not an excuse for abuse.
Right.
The judge was very clear on that. She emphasized that the parents were fully responsible for their actions.
Right. And ultimately,
Yeah.
they prioritize their own desires over their daughter's well-being. And that brings us to maybe the most perplexing
Oh, yeah, I know where you're going with this.
part of this whole case,
Yeah.
the daughter's defense of her
Yeah.
parents. I mean, she actually stood up in court and claimed that they hadn't done anything wrong.
Right. And that's one of the things that makes this case so difficult to grasp.
Yes.
Because how can someone who's been subjected to this level of control
Exactly.
and isolation actually defend their abusers?
Well, is there any psychological explanation for that?
Well, there are a few possibilities. One that comes to mind is Stockholm Syndrome.
Right, where the victim essentially identifies with their captor.
Exactly. It's a complex survival mechanism,
Yeah.
where victims who are completely dependent on their abusers and isolated from any other perspectives, they start to see the world through their abuser's eyes.
Right, it's almost like a coping mechanism, right?
Right, because in a situation where you have no control, aligning yourself with your abuser can feel like the safest option.
It's heartbreaking.
It is. It really is.
And so while the parents are now facing the consequences of their actions, 6.5 years for the father, 5 for the mother,
Yeah.
the daughter's journey
hmm
is really just beginning.
Yeah. She's got a long road ahead of her, in terms of unpacking this trauma.
Absolutely. It's going to take a lot of um, therapy, to kind of unravel.
And support. She's going to need a really strong support system to
Absolutely.
help her navigate this new reality and reclaim her identity.
And, this case really raises a bigger question, right? I mean, how can we as a society be more vigilant in identifying
Yeah.
and addressing these hidden cases of abuse?
I think it's about awareness. Educating ourselves and others about the signs of abuse. And it's about creating safe spaces where people feel comfortable coming forward.
And it's interesting that, it often takes someone outside the immediate family,
Right.
like this case, the ballet teachers.
Exactly. To recognize those signs and to intervene.
It's like that saying, it takes a village.
Yeah.
We all have a responsibility to look out for each other.
And to speak up when something doesn't feel right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because silence only protects the abusers.
And, at the end of the day, this young woman's story is
Yeah.
far from over.
Yeah, definitely not over.
But we can only hope that, she finds the support and the strength that she needs to build a new life for herself.
A life where she can finally be free to be herself.
Exactly. Well, on that note, let's wrap up this deep dive.
Okay.
But as always, we want to leave our listeners with something to think about.
Always a good idea.
So, what can we do, each of us individually, to be more aware
Yeah.
of these situations? How can we be better advocates
Mhm.
for vulnerable children?
That's the question we all need to be asking ourselves.
Absolutely. So let's all commit to doing our part.
And, hopefully we can make a difference.
One step at a time.
One step at a time.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. It's
Yep.
been, it's a heavy topic, but it's important to discuss these things.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thanks for coming.
Of course.
And until next time, stay curious and stay informed.
Stay safe out there.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.